Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to show you how I do a very quick smoky eye with two products. The two products I'm going to be using are a NUDESTIX pencil and an eyeshadow. This is a look that is an easy one to learn if you're just getting started as a makeup artist or if you're looking for ideas on how to do things quickly. I'm often working in a rush, so a smoky eye with only two products is perfect for me. This is our model for today's video, Alice. This is her before and after photo. I wanted to quickly just touch on face shape, eye shape, and undertone. So with Alice's face, I am not going to be doing any hardcore contouring or sculpting of the face. I'm mostly going to use a bronzer for adding shape to the face, for adding dimension. And because of her face shape, right here is where I'm going to focus that in this area here. You can see she's got a really nice oval shape to her face and just a little extra shaping in that cheek area is really going to bring her cheeks out. So you'll see me do that today. As far as her eye shape goes, her eyes are deeper set. So when I'm doing smoky eyes on someone with deeper set eyes, I like to just slightly blend the deeper shadow just above where their natural crease is. And as far as undertone goes, Alice's undertone is kind of in that neutral category, slightly warm. So all of the products that I'm going to be using on her skin today are not going to be overly warm. I'm using a lot of browns, bronzes. They're going to be neutral to slightly warm so that everything I choose really looks harmonious with her skin. Alice's skin is a little bit dry, dehydrated, so I'm starting with a Neutrogena alcohol-free toner, and then I'm going to follow up with EMBRYOLISSE moisturizer all over the skin. I'm using AVENE eye cream just around the eye contour. I noticed her under eye area was more dry than the rest of her face, so I wanted to make sure that I was just applying enough. I'm brushing through the brows just to make sure there's no skin prep stuck in there. When I have to work quickly, I always start with the eyes first. So I'm taking Face Atelier foundation on a larger synthetic brush and I'm just working it into the area under the brow and on the inner corner of the eye. I just want to get some product on there before I start working. I don't like when I see eye makeup looks where the inside corner of the eye has no makeup there, no foundation or anything. It's one of those things that really sticks out to me. So I make sure I do this. This is the NUDESTIX pencil. I'm applying it with the Refer pencil brush. I'm doing the waterline first just in case her eyes get teary, which they started to a little bit. And with my smoky eyes, I like to do the waterline first because I find it just gives the area around the waterline more of that lived in look and it can look more natural. And it's just something I like to do. She survived. Going back again with the pencil brush to the upper waterline. I love using a brush like this for waterline. It's softer on my clients and models waterline and it spreads the product evenly and quickly. So it's my preferred brush usually when I'm working in this area. I'm going to move right into applying the NUDESTIX pencil across the lid. I use a synthetic brush that is about the same size as my client's eyelid so I can work quickly. And you can see I'm blending this out just above where her natural crease is. I am going to go over with a shadow, so you don't have to be as precise with this step, especially if you're in a rush. It's hard to be precise, so try to just blend it as best you can, and then you'll kind of blend everything together once you apply the shadow in if you're trying this look. The nude stick pencils do set very quickly, so you do have to work fast with these, but you can use any cream eyeshadow for this look. It doesn't have to be the nude sticks pencils. I'm using the Refer number 2 brush, I think I should know this by now, just to pack on the eyeshadow, and this is the fastest way to build up the color on the lid when you're working in a rush. So try to use a brush that is more dense and not as fluffy. You can go in with a fluffy brush and blend out the shadow, which is what I'm doing right here with another Refer brush. But when you're packing on that shadow to get that intensity at the lash line, try to use a brush that's more dense. This will also minimize the amount of fallout that you have during your application. Even though I'm only using the NUDESTIX pencil, and this is a Makeup by Mario eyeshadow, can't remember if I mentioned that, I still want to build up intensity and add some interest to the eye. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm taking smaller brushes and I'm making sure to build up that shadow right at the lash line. This just gives some interest to the look so it's not so flat. I'm just going to speed up and show you the other eye. Same process. I'm starting with a NUDESTIX pencil, and then I'm going in with a shadow from the Makeup by Mario Master Mattes palette. And then usually something I do when I am trying to work in a rush, I'll do one eye first and see what it looks like. And this allows me to do the second eye much faster. So you can watch the process here. My favorite part of the application, I'm taking some Bioderma on a cotton pad and I'm just removing any fallout that's there. There's not too much with this look. I do want to keep some shadow under the lower lash line. This will just save me some time. I saw a patch of dry skin, so usually when this happens, if I know my client's skin isn't sensitive, I'll take a little extra Embryolisse on a spoolie and just exfoliate that area. I noticed the area under her eyes was very dehydrated, so I didn't want to use a self-setting liquid concealer. Sometimes that can be too drying, so I'm choosing the MAC regular cream concealer. I'm starting with a peach corrector first, just on the areas under the eye where there's some darkness, and I'm going to press that in with a sponge. This just is a more, I'm not going to say moisturizing formula, but it's not as drying. Then I'm going to start with the skin. So I'm using Face Atelier foundation. I'm using the lightest shade in my application, just down the center of the face. And I think you'll see throughout this application, I do a lot of layering, blending. That's how I get that second skin look on camera, especially when I need a little bit of coverage. Alice has some redness on the cheeks, just a couple areas of breakout there. So I like to go in steps. I don't just do one shade all over and then build dimension from there. I build everything up gradually. And for these types of things, I usually like to use a larger synthetic brush if I'm working across a larger section of the face. So you'll see me do that. And when I'm working in smaller sections of the face, I'll choose a brush that is smaller in size. I'm choosing a really light neutral undertone foundation from Face Atelier just because I know Face Atelier leans slightly warm, slightly yellow, which really suits her skin. So that's why I chose that. And you know, I'm all about dimension. So I'm going to be using a few different shades of foundation during this application. I'll also be adding dimension through a cream bronzer and blush and highlighter. So you'll see me build all of that up as we go. I don't know if you like me to keep in all these steps. I was gonna speed it up, but let me know in the comments what you think. If you like seeing the whole thing, if you like seeing the entire process kind of come together. I don't work in very clean steps. So that's one thing, but maybe that's of interest to you to see. Here's another spot on her nose that I saw that I just need to exfoliate before I go on. And the great thing about Face Atelier, you can layer it and blend things together. So it's a very easy foundation to work with. Now I'm going in with the MAC concealer. I know it looks like a lot of product, but I think it's because this is a heavier coverage than the rest of the product on her face. So it's not, it's just enough for me to get some coverage under the eye and then enough to blend it out evenly with my sponge. I'm using the Shop Miss A sponges here. I cut them in half so I can obviously get more use out of them. But you see how I curve the sponge around my finger? It just gives me more precision with the sponge, and you can do that more easily when the sponge is cut in half. So I'll let you watch me blend this all out. The one thing I do have to mention, when I'm filming these videos, on the right side of the camera, what you're seeing, or on the right side of the screen, when I'm working, I can barely see that side. So you'll see just under her eye on the right side, the concealer is not blended very neatly. I'll get it eventually. I do step in front of the camera when I'm filming these to make sure everything's symmetrical and things are blended evenly, but it is very hard for me to see on that right side just because I have my lights there and I can't step in front of the camera to see. So I got to get used to this with filming. You'd think I'd be used to it by now, but I'm just not. So, and now I'm just doing some spot concealing with the cream concealer. What I'm doing here is very risky to do with someone that has a dehydrated under eye area. I'm using the Laura Mercier translucent powder over the concealer, but the concealer is a more traditional cream, so it actually absorbs more powder than a self-setting concealer, so I'm comfortable with the amounts, but just be careful if you're doing this. You don't want the dry area to be really emphasized by using too much powder, so you'll have to figure out based on the products you have in your kit what the right amounts are to use, and then I blend it all out with a larger synthetic brush just to make sure nothing looks too heavy with the coverage. Here's a really good trick for you. I'm using one of the Beauty Light wands from Charlotte Tilbury in a shade called Spotlight, I think, and I mix it with the Face Atelier foundation for that glowy look. In a lot of cases, this looks better than the flawless filter I find, so it's a thing that I love to do. I'm using the Charlotte Tilbury Cream Bronzer in medium just to carve out, actually, I shouldn't even say carve out, just to add dimension to the cheeks. I am not a fan of overly contouring. I'm sure you know that with my work, but sometimes you need a little contour. In this case, I think the cream bronzer is going to be more than enough for this. I don't think I'm going to need a lot. I am focusing it more just on her cheek, under her cheekbone, and not so much across the forehead. Some there just to get a nice balance and to get that dimension all around the face so we don't have potato face, but I'm not going in really heavy with this. Actually, one thing I totally forgot to mention, I take the Charlotte Tilbury cream bronzer and I mix it with some of the Face Atelier foundation. That's why the texture maybe looks different. If you're used to using this, it looks thinner. It's a technique that I like to do when I am doing natural makeup applications. As much as I love the Charlotte Tilbury cream bronzer, sometimes they can be too heavy. So in this case, I've diluted it, I guess, with some Face Atelier foundation. I noticed a little area around her nose that needed some coverage, so I'm just going in with some more concealer. I'm using Rare Beauty liquid blush in Hope. This is probably one of my favorite liquid blushes right now. This shade, Hope specifically, it is closer to a neutral pink, so it's very versatile. It's going to work on a lot of skin tones. The product is very pigmented, as I'm sure a lot of you know, so I like to build it up gradually. I don't dot it on the skin and then blend it out. I find sometimes it's too heavy. I just go in really light layers. I hope you're getting a really good sense for my application technique here. It's all about light layers, blending, and then pressing in everything with the sponge. That's how I get a lot of those really beautiful natural makeup looks. And this reads really well on camera for a lot of the type of work I do. I'm taking another Rephr brush that has some setting powder on it. It's the Laura Mercier translucent setting powder again, and I'm just selectively setting certain areas of the makeup that I think need it, just along the T-zone, around the nose. Misting everything with Charlotte Tilbury setting spray. I love this setting spray. It does take down some of the powder finish to give the makeup a nice creamy look. It does a great job of setting everything, and then I press it in if there's any little blotches. I'm applying Inglot Soap Brow, just a tiny amount into the brows. She has beautiful natural brows, so I just want to get them shaped and groomed, and I don't need to do too much to them. Before I apply mascara, I'm just getting Alice to curl her lashes for me. I do this often when I have models that are comfortable curling their lashes. I noticed some of the under eye concealer was creasing, so I'm going in with Charlotte Tilbury setting spray on a sponge just to make sure everything sets and doesn't move. Speed dry with my little fan, and then I'm using a fan brush to just apply some mascara. This helps me get the mascara right to the lash line. Alice has lighter lashes at the base, so I wanted to make sure everything's covered with mascara, and then I usually go in with a second coat on a spoolie. I'm trying to speed dry the mascara here so it doesn't transfer when she opens her eyes. I'm applying the Dior highlighter, but I'm just using very little because you can go overboard with this stuff. And I'm using a smaller brush here just to make sure I can blend it in and control the application. I felt like I wanted her to have some more cheek color, but since everything is set, I didn't want to go in with liquid blush again, so I'm using an Hourglass blush just on the high points, just to bring those cheeks out. And I'm applying my favorite Maybelline gloss. It's the Lifter Gloss in shade Moon. Run, Don't Walk. Just get this. It's so pretty for natural makeup looks. And here's the final look. If you have any questions, put them in the comments.